So, hello, and welcome to Truth You Can Wake Up To. I'm Samuel William. It is the 15th of December 2012, and I'm speaking to you from the United Kingdom. I am currently chilling out in London. Now, this episode is called Seeing Through the Shooting, and I'm talking about the very recent events that happened just yesterday morning in Connecticut in America, where a man, a so-called lone gunman called Adam Lanza, went into a primary school or an elementary school in America and shot dead lots of children and some teachers, the principal, and then, of course, himself, following the set-out tradition of high school and lone gunman shootings. Now, of course, already in the alternative media, people are saying that this is a staged event to try and do something about the crazy people out there who are wielding guns, and this is to do with gun control. And of course, Obama is coming under apparently massive pressure to do something, to act, and reduce the amount of guns that are freely available for people to use in America. Now, if you ask me, acting is exactly what Barack Obama is doing, and that's exactly what he does best, and that's why he is the American president and has been for all of this time, is because of his brilliant ability for acting. Now, this really showed up when he made his so-called heartfelt, heart-wrenching speech about what happened, where, of course, he cried. Now, this isn't the first time that we've seen Obama crying. He cried when he was re-elected. This time he cried as well. We say he cried. What he was essentially doing was sort of touching his eye a lot and sort of hovering and not really speaking. Now, Obama crying, this is from a guy who, in his routine work as American president, orders the assassination of people in Pakistan, on the border of Afghanistan and Pakistan, using drones. Very, very easy if you do a Google search for children dying through drone attacks in Pakistan to find that there's a lot of children that are dying because of big guns, and it's not really, the main source of them does not come from sort of nerdy, bipolar, possibly mind-controlled people who get sent into primary schools. How many tears is Obama shedding for all of those innocent children that are murdered by his and his cronies' hands? Probably not too many. And if you check out the video of Obama's speech, ask yourself a question. Is there a little bit of something on his finger that he keeps? So is this one? He keeps touching his eye. Is there a little bit of one of those chemicals that actors use so that it brings a tear to the eye? Well, very, very possibly. We've got to remember that Obama, it is documented that at least once he has visited Bohemian Grove, possibly many more times than that. And Bohemian Grove, of course, is where the ceremony for the cremation of care happens, which is where sort of globalist leaders and whoever are under those cloaks and those hoods, they do a mock human sacrifice of a human baby to kind of drill out of them the idea of having any thoughts or any empathy to do with the sacrificing of innocence. So Obama and any leader in America or in England or in France or in Israel for that matter, none of these guys are ever going to shed a real tear for any children that die, never mind whether they're from their own country or from other countries. So that's the first thing. Also, as a very, very obvious part of the sort of social behavioral agenda that is going through the Western world, not just in America, it is very, very important for them, I presume, that on the news broadcasts and on the mainstream media, wherever this story is covered, you cannot get away from the images of armed army personnel marching around in troops on the scene. Of course, the people would perceive that as a form of protection, and it's a really, really good idea that the army are there. Not really thinking about the idea that they're trying to get us used to seeing the army on our own shores, on our own land, operating upon our own people, and so-called bringing security. Not really thinking about the idea that actually the army, these are professional child killers. These are the guys with the biggest guns who go around throwing grenades into houses that have children sleeping, that have children playing. These are people that don't even blink an eyelid when wielding a gun around children. The leaders that are also talking about the necessity for gun control are also the same leaders that turn a blind eye when Israel opens fire on, say, children playing football across the border in Palestine, if there is such a place as Palestine. Now, the whole thing with Israel and the Jewish or the Zionist, I should say, community is actually intricately involved in what's going on here. If you look at one man, let's call him an agent of the Matrix, one of these people that just turns up at the right time, pushing the correct, as far as the government is concerned, or as far as the state is concerned, pushing the correct political agenda. And this is this guy called Andy Pelosi. If you do a quick search for Andy Pelosi, you will find that he is in charge, essentially, of an organization called gunfreekids.org, and also the campaign to keep guns off campus, which seems like a nice thing. You don't really want guns in schools, but of course the campaign to keep guns off campus probably will involve things like metal detecting, and before long probably naked body scanners, before long an entire surveillance grid that is pervading the state school network. But also this guy Andy Pelosi went to just do a little search about it. You come up with the term the new school. Now I'll come back to that. Just to mention that this Andy Pelosi guy, he was the guy that had basically organized a protest outside the White House almost straight away. Just happened to be, as he said himself, just happened to be in Washington at the time with a bunch of activists. And very quickly they organized a protest which was outside. He himself was on a loudhailer telling people the slogan, "Enough is enough," and that Obama must lead. Lead us, Obama. Lead us in the correct. And he said, this isn't to do with politics. The politics needs to be pushed aside. What we need is gun control now. That's what this guy is saying. Now, this guy attended a university called the New School. Now, I don't really trust Wikipedia too much, but it sometimes is a good starting point if you're doing research on these things. You don't have to scroll down in the Wikipedia article about the New School, which is a New York university set up by the Jewish intelligentsia who fled the Nazi occupation of Europe. You don't have to scroll down too far in the Wikipedia article to find out or see that magical little word, Rockefeller. Of course, this university is funded by the Rockefeller Foundation, who really specialize in social control, and that's exactly what this university, the New School as it's known, specializes in. It's almost sort of like the Tavistock Institute, and it works on social. So let's call it social engineering or behavioral engineering. Now, the New School has associated with it an organization called the World Policy Institute, which is like a global think tank to do with global policy. We are talking about global governance here, and in fact, the New School and the World Policy Institute advocate things like a world police force, like a military force, which is the only permitted military force in the world. This is what they advocate. Of course, very, very, very important to think about that word only, military force, because, of course, military essentially is just talking about guns. So it's only natural that this guy who graduated from the new school, which is about social engineering, is praised by people in the current administration as somebody who's really going in the right path, of course, because they're trying to, not only are they trying to dumb us down in the school system, but, of course, they're trying to make sure that we graduate from that school system in a very disarmed way in terms of our intelligence and in terms of what might be concealed on our persons. Now, I picked this up from InfoWars, so this isn't something that I've researched myself, but it was reported in CBS Connecticut that a second gunman or a second suspect was picked up at the scene. But of course, as InfoWars is documenting here, the news reports of this second person almost instantly dropped out of the news, and now they're not talking about a group of people or even two people, or he had an accomplice, and they're not talking about any of these things. What they are talking about is that this was a crazed lone gunman who suffered from autism, and just a little bit of research into the whole autism thing shows that there's actually, both physically and politically, there's no such thing as autism. In fact, the very word autism is brought about so that parents who have children who are the victims of essentially mercury poisoning from injections don't have a legal leg to stand on once they admit that their children are autistic. But essentially what you're talking about here is a brain-damaged child. Or he was 20 years old. But what they are saying is that this guy was bipolar. Now, bipolarism is one of the things you come across again and again when you research into trauma-based mind control, and when you research things into patsies who commit acts on behalf of an organization linked to state, who are being manipulated because they need this bipolar disorder, which is through hypnosis and use of psychoactive drugs. Their personalities are split apart into a good side and a bad side, so that they can operate perfectly rationally and fine in the normal world, but as soon as they need to commit some kind of terrible act, they have no problem in doing it whatsoever. Now, people like this, I mean, like the guy who assassinated Bobby Kennedy, of course, there were people on the scene handling him. Now, it seems that that's exactly what has happened with this one. This guy, Adam Lanza, did not, it seems, do these things on his own, because CBS, I'll read it out to you. This is a quote from CBS. The article is called 27 Dead, including 20 children in elementary school shooting. And it's from yesterday, December the 14th. And I quote, CBS News reports that a potential second suspect was in custody and that SWAT, SWAT, was investigating the home of the subject. It was not known if the alleged second suspect fired any of the shots in the massacre. A witness tells WFSB TV that a second man was taken out of the woods in handcuffs, wearing a black jacket and camouflage pants, and telling parents on the scene, I did not do it. So there was a guy in the woods on the scene who knew what was going on, because he said, I did not do it, as he was being led from the woods. And it seems that this guy had a handler. Now, of course, after I broadcast this video, I'm sure lots more information will come out about this, and I'm sure a lot of the information is just going to back up exactly the idea that we're talking about here, that it's very, very important for the political elite in America that when a bill or some kind of legislation needs to go through to push the global agenda of disarmament of the general populace, that something very, very emotional happens. Of course, we saw this exactly under Bill Clinton in the Oklahoma bombing, in that, of course, it was very important for the political agenda that you had pictures of firefighters bringing out sort of bloodied children. Now, this is exactly the same thing. I mean, don't get me wrong, this is a terrible thing that's happened in Connecticut. I mean, who could ever agree with the sort of wholesale slaughtering of children? Which is why, of course, the anti-war activism is so important, because that's what we're talking about, the wholesale massacre of children. So, of course, it's never can never be seen as a good thing. And I'm sure all of these children in their school are now going to have emotional scars that go on for the rest of their lives, as are the parents and all the people in the community. To be honest, they're all going to be affected by this. But this has been brought to them by the political elite because it's expedient for them to push through a law about gun control. And that should be very, very easy for anybody to see with these events. Thank you for listening. I've been Samuel William. Please subscribe. Thumbs up if you agree with my sentiment and you like this video. Why not share it? And until next time, goodbye.